half the field in. Next to go, Sweet William, and that will leave Shackleton and Al Nair. The last two coming in. We're not far from a start. No, but I have been doing it for quite a while. Al Nair under jockey change. Ross Orion, last one in. All six in the stalls. Extended 2 miles ahead of them. And they're off, breaking out for the Weatherbys Lonsdale Cup. Sweet William down at the rail, just needing a bit of encouragement to gather his stride, which he has now done. Shackleton in the shades of green, and favourite Trawlerman out wide, lead under the judge first time, with the nose-bounded Al Kareem dropping into third, just ahead of Sweet William, now on the bridle in fourth place, the pink and white Sosa Rab Havlin. Al Nair in the red and white under jockey chains, Ross Orion last but one, and Dubai Future held up last of all by Kevin Stott Blue with the white cap. So they take the turn away towards the back straight. They've gone through the first quarter of a mile, and it is Shackleton in the first time cheek pieces who sets the early fractions. They go along at around about 33, 34 miles an hour in the early part of the race. Trawlerman sitting at the leader's quarters. Buick has him handy, and Trawlerman racing enthusiastically. As in his slipstream is Al Kareem in the noseband, who's upside Sweet William close to the rail, and then Al Nair the shadow to Dubai Future. Across the far side they go, and they've completed now more than half a mile. Shackleton over Trawlerman, who races a little off the running rail. His stablemate Sweet William close to the fence, alongside Al Kareem, who's still pretty keen under restraint from Clifford Lee. Dubai Future racing on the inner of Al Nair, and they've exchanged positions at the back end of the field. It's an even pace as they move well inside the last mile and a quarter, and Shackleton and Wayne Lorden continue to lead up in a well-grouped field. Trawlerman within a half length. Sweet William racing on the near side of the free-going Al Kareem, and then Dubai Future, the white cap, in fifth place, just a whisker in advance of Al Nair. Heading inside the last mile, through halfway in the Weatherbys Lonsdale Cup, and there's been very little change in the order in truth. Shackleton still has a small lead. The pace has just lifted a fraction as Trawlerman now comes alongside, and Buick, you sense, now wants to turn this into a pretty good test for the last 3/4 of a mile. Sweet William disputing third with Al Kareem, and Dubai Future remains in the last pair with Al Nair. They begin the swing back towards home, 5.5 furlongs left to travel. Trawlerman now staring Shackleton in the eye. They've been the leading pair from the outset. They run the last part of the bend, a length and a half clear to Al Kareem on the outer, Sweet William on straightening. Al Nair just bustled along in the red and white silks just to hold his position. Upsize Dubai Future turning on in the last half mile in sight, and this time they drift a little off the inside running rail, coming down the centre of the Knavesmire. Trawlerman, Buick asking for more. Shackleton on the far side headed. Here comes Al Kareem in the noseband. Al Nair in the red and white beginning to respond. Sweet William being finessed into it by Rab Havlin, pink and white silks. Dubai Future, the white cap, threading through from the rear. A quarter mile to go in the Weatherbys Lonsdale Cup, and it's the Gosden pair 1 and 2. Trawlerman tackled by his stablemate Sweet William. Al Nair on the left moving into third ahead of Al Kareem. Trawlerman in front passing the furlong. Sweet William pestering. Al Nair rallying doggedly under pressure. Trawlerman under the Buick drive, giving generously. Sweet William keeping him honest, but it's the Gold Cup winner and star stayer Trawlerman who wins the Weatherbys Lonsdale Cup in a Gosden 1-2. Sweet William carried out on his shield in second, clear of Al Nair, Al Kareem, Shackleton and Dubai Future.
Trawlerman has just won the Lonsdale in the hands of William Buick for Godolphin, for the Gosdens, and it was another fine staying performance. Talk us through that race.
Yeah, we thought that might happen. That Shackleton on the inside would want to be made use of. He has done in his previous runs. He was up in trip himself, but yeah, we weren't surprised with the scenario. And you know, Trawlerman, he's so adaptable. He can do it himself, and he can follow. So as long as he's in an even rhythm, on an even keel, he's happy. And obviously, you know, John reminded me that he was down half a mile in trip from the Gold Cup. So let's make them come to him. So Yeah, he's just a super horse. You know, he goes through the gears from passing the 4, and you know, he's as strong at the line as what he is at the 2-pole. You know.
Rob Havram was just describing getting to you and thinking, is Trawlerman just idling a bit, have I got a chance? And then just Trawlerman relentlessly finding more. It must be really, I mean, I bet you're out of puff afterwards, but it must be a really great feeling.
It is. You know, you always feel like you're in control. You can see them in the corner of your eye, under your arm. But he always gives you more. And every time I've ridden him, even when he's got beaten by whether it be Kyprios or other horses, he always feels like he's got more, you know. So, look, you know, he was clear second best behind Kyprios last year. That takes a bit of doing. So, you know, now he's the kid on the block. So yeah, it's great to have him. Very privileged to have him.
And he's better than last year, though, isn't he? I mean, I know Kyprios isn't around, but he surely is.
He is, and I think also we probably got more confidence in how we approach him in these races. I think we're probably playing to his strengths better than what we did last year, I would say. But you know, he hasn't got Kyprios to deal with this year. That's not to say that there's going to be other horses coming through. There always is. But look, he ran to a very high level last year. And he's doing so again this year.
Yeah, and that performance at Ascot was so devastating. Did you have any worries in the back of your mind that just because of how much he'd given that day and how hard he was and how tremendous that performance was, that he might recoil from it at all? Yeah,
but his demeanour straight after the Gold Cup at Ascot was very clear. You know, he didn't feel like a tired horse. After going 2.5 miles the way he did it, where last year he did feel like he got tired. This year he was slightly different. You know, he didn't feel like he was empty. And obviously, look, John and Thady thought it was right to come here, so obviously he's been showing the right signs all the way through.
Absolutely, 7 years of age, a fully mature, top-class stayer. Just a quick note, John did say to you, make sure you weigh in, which is a reference to the International, of course, which you won in these silks on Ombudsman for John. What was that moment like for you when you heard the objection from the Clerk of the Scales?
Well, you never like to hear the claxons anyway, especially when you're on the winner. So I just weighed in here, and I was halfway back to the weighing room, and they went off, and it was an objection from the Clerk of the Scales. So the timing was sort of in line with me weighing in and the objection. So I chose to ignore it as best as I could. And luckily, it had nothing to do with us. But I think John equally was, you know, initially worried. But look, it was they probably should have made it a lot clearer on the tannoid what it was involved, because, you know, it's a very big race, and yeah, look, it doesn't bear talking about or thinking about.
Okay, let's change the subject. All's well that ended well. Congratulations, well done.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you. Another strong, staying performance from a stayer that is at the top of his maturity, the top of his game. He is trained, of course, by John and Thady Gosden. He's Trawlerman, and that was another great staying performance in the Lonsdale, particularly with the weight that he had to carry as the penalty.
Yeah, he's carrying the penalty for the Group 1 win at Ascot, the Gold Cup, and you know, in the 3-year-old made it a test of the stamina, and he's getting the full stone in weight, quite right. And they made a lovely race of it together. And when I saw Wayne just go to settle the pace a bit, William said, no, we keep up the same tempo, thank you. Down the back into the far bend. And look, it was an exciting race, and then the old clever boy, Sweet William, comes, who won the Doncaster Cup last year. He comes late, and then he's waiting to challenge. William goes, and I'm going to tease Rab. I said, I think you moved too soon. But you have a great race between two proper cup horses, and you know, for the crowd, it's wonderful. And Lonsdale's a lovely race, and I'm a great believer in the cup races. We need them as an integral part of the programme, and people enjoy them because they have an opinion halfway through the race. They might go and get a drink and come back, and they're still running. But people do enjoy the staying races, and we've got to be careful we don't wind up with no staying horses.
Absolutely, and obviously you had Stradivarius strutting his stuff in this race. Are we seeing a similar type of horse in terms of he has now reached his physical peak at the age of 7, Trawlerman, that he is mentally there, you know how to ride him to get the best out of him?
He was probably there at 5.
Right.
I think probably the great staying horses, probably 5 is a zenith, 5 and 6. I mean, Stradivarius came here aged 8 and went and won here at age 8 the Yorkshire Cup, which is extraordinary. Then went to start and covered 100 mares. And I noticed he has a filly who looks just like him, and the Doncaster sail up the road here, which is meant to be for speed horses. But he was an exceptional stayer because he had enormous acceleration. A horse called Sagaro was like that. Whereas this boy, Trawlerman, you go 15 rounds with him and you know you've gone 15 rounds. There's no sting, he just grinds you into the ground.
That performance at Ascot was a brutal display of stamina, wasn't it? I just, like you, I love staying races, and I just loved watching him go around there.
Yeah, that 2.5 miles is what he really enjoys. And if someone wants to go faster, he can wait till they drop out and go. He doesn't have to have the lead. He's not that sort of prima donna bully boy. But when he sets his rhythm, he likes his rhythm. And it's like if you run in a marathon, presumably against some of those great Ethiopians or Kenyans, and they set that rhythm, and they're comfortable with it, they will break good runners, with them and behind them.
Back to the long distance cup with him at the end of the season?
Yeah, we go to Ascot with him, all being well. And the other old boy goes back to the Doncaster Cup, which he won last year, and that would be him for the season.
Is he coming to the boil nicely?
I hope I had him a bit sharper, Thady and I hope he's not coming to the boil.
No, I don't mean that, but you have to mean he's one of last season he kind of ran gradually and got better and better.
He's been running great all year, but I'd say he looked his sharpest today. I think that's a fair comment. Yep.
Okay. Well, congratulations. Thank you very much for serving up an excellent edition of the Lonsdale.
That's good. Thank you.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.